Hey guys, it's Frey, and today we are comparing Shopify, Squarespace, and WordPress. It's 2020 and the time to start an online business or try to make some money online through the internet has never been better. I figured I would kind of share my experience with making multiple websites with each of these platforms and which platform might be the best for you. Keep in mind that this is coming from someone who has zero coding experience. I don't know any of the HTML and CSS that's gonna make you a fully customizable website. So let's get to it. We're gonna dive into the pros and cons of each of these three platforms, and I'm going to kind of recommend what I believe is best based on what kind of business you have. Whether you have a blog or you're trying to do affiliate marketing, whether you're an e-commerce store, whether you have a professional service, consulting maybe that you're trying to sell. I think this is valid for all of those different businesses, and these are some things to consider as you're choosing. First, Squarespace. You've probably heard of Squarespace over the years because they are really aggressive in their marketing tactics, especially when kind of sponsoring podcasts and different YouTube channels. So the pros that I've had with Squarespace are definitely the price. It's definitely a great deal. I just started a Squarespace website last week, and I believe I paid a little bit over $100 for one entire year. I also use the extension Honey, which is a free Chrome extension that helps find different promo codes and coupon codes, and it gave me a 20% discount, so that was pretty sweet. The second thing is that there's no coding knowledge necessary. It's really easy to learn. I think that if you have general knowledge with tech, then you could figure out Squarespace in a matter of a couple of days. I remember when I started back in 2013, it was still a little bit clunky, and it still only took me, I think, one entire long day to figure out how to start building my website. Another thing is they offer a free domain for 1 year, and usually a domain will cost about $14.99 a year. So you can consider that into your savings. That's pretty cool. Lastly, I would say Squarespace is pretty big at this point, so it's pretty easy to find tutorials online on how to build your website or something specific. It's pretty likely you'll be able to look it up on YouTube and just figure out the answer from there. Their customer support is also pretty good. They have a ticket system where you can just write them an email and then they'll get back to you in a couple of days. I personally love the phone support. I feel like that's the quickest way for me to get my answers. Now I'm gonna talk about a couple things where Squarespace might be lacking just a little bit. The first one is the plugins. Now, for me, I own an e-commerce store, and having the right plugins can seriously enhance your customer experience so much that it could lead to a lot more sales. It could just lead to a better impression. While Squarespace does allow you to install third-party plugins, there's not a dedicated plugin store where you can kind of see which popular plugins there are and what the reviews are. Now, just a heads up, plugins are definitely more important for e-commerce stores, I would say, and it's totally worth kind of weighing your option when choosing one of these platforms. I would recommend Squarespace for anyone who is doing a personal blog or a business blog, affiliate marketing. You have products, maybe you're trying to do some kind of affiliate marketing with Amazon or some other company and you want to promote it. Or if you have a service business, a photography business, a consulting business, maybe you do graphic design as a freelancer. All these things I think are a really solid option for Squarespace. Number two is Shopify. Shopify is what I currently use for my e-commerce store, and I've used them for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Since I have so much experience with Shopify, I'm gonna go ahead and say I recommend Shopify for any small or medium-sized business, especially if they're selling a physical product. Their interface is also pretty straightforward and really quick to build once you figure out. In fact, just a couple months ago, I was playing around with dropshipping and I learned Shopify so well that I was making websites in about 3 hours that looked pretty decent. The next one I think is the most important, which is customer support. Shopify has a dedicated phone number where you can call and ask them anything that you are having troubles with. As someone whose business relies on e-commerce, I feel like this is so crucial because I can pick up the phone and get a solution in right around 30 minutes to 45 minutes as opposed to Squarespace that might take 1 or 2 business days. And I'm the kind of guy who would call up support for something that I might be even just a little bit lazy to look up or do. And every single experience I've had with Shopify customer support has been really positive, and I got my answer in that call. The third thing is Shopify has its own dedicated Shopify add-on or plugin store. When you realize the power of plugins, you will absolutely love this because there's almost a plugin for anything that you want to do. If you want to completely edit every single part of your website, there's definitely a plugin for that. If you want reviews underneath your products, there's a plugin for that. If you want a plugin that compresses every single image to make it SEO friendly, there's a plugin for that. And so there's literally thousands of these plugins. What's even better is that there are multiple reviews that you can read, and you can see if the developers behind these plugins are really keeping up to date and making new innovations. All right, now let's talk about the disadvantages of using Shopify. The first one being the price. The lowest package starts at $29 a month. I feel like this is a little bit pricey, especially if you are unsure whether or not you are going to monetize it. Maybe you're just starting a blog for fun and you just want a place to write and have your art live in a place. So in that case, I feel like $29 is a little bit steep. The second disadvantage I can think of, it's not fully customizable. And what I mean by that is that there's certain parts of making a website on Shopify that are just a little bit limiting. With Shopify, you pretty much buy a theme. Whatever the template is what you're working with. So in short, it's less customizable, but then again, there are plugins for that. And while the plugins do cost money sometimes, especially if they're very solid plugins, it's worth it. The last one is WordPress. First things that I think about when I think of WordPress is like, it kind of gives me a headache, but also the ceiling is absolutely limitless. And with that said, one of the biggest pros of WordPress is its customizable function. You can totally buy a template and make your life easier just by putting in your photos and changing the text and kind of doing it like Shopify and Squarespace. But I feel like WordPress's interface is probably the least friendly of them all. The second thing that's great for WordPress is that it's very SEO friendly right out of the box. If that just sounded like a jumbled sentence to you, SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's pretty much the art of getting your website visible on Google's, homepage. Obviously if you're the first link when you type in haircuts near me, you're gonna get more business than the person who's on the third page or the fourth page. Basically, if you know absolutely zero about SEO and you start a Squarespace website and a WordPress website about the same industries, the same topics, and you have the same kind of content and everything, your website may have a chance to be a little bit more visible and get more traction, but just by a little bit. The third advantage of WordPress is that there are a ton of plugins. There's something called the Envato Marketplace where there are literally hundreds of different templates that you can choose from for WordPress, and it's honestly pretty beautiful. Like any single kind of website that you can imagine is probably available there. And because WordPress has so many different templates, it makes it very, very versatile and honestly the right choice when it comes to creating any sort of business. But now let's get into the cons of WordPress because there are definitely some disadvantages for a non-tech savvy person like me. My first complaint is WordPress's support. Now WordPress doesn't have a phone where you can call them and ask a dedicated WordPress rep for help, and because they don't have an in-house customer service that I can just call, I oftentimes have to rely on YouTube tutorials and forums online to get the answers that I need. It could be very challenging to find that answer because, like I said, there are so many different kind of themes and plugins available. The second con of WordPress, in my opinion, is the user interface. Since I've been making websites for about 7 years, give or take, I feel like WordPress's interface is probably the least friendly of them all. It took me a really long time just to figure out how to do very basic things that would have been very, very straightforward on Squarespace or Shopify. Even though WordPress has the highest ceiling when it comes to being able to customize your own website, it just kind of gives me a headache just thinking about what I would have to learn and what I'd have to do to really create the website that I would be happy with. So that's the only thing I have against WordPress. Otherwise, I would highly recommend WordPress for any maybe small, medium, or large business that needs a fully customizable website. Maybe they need a very specific function, like if you're a restaurant, you need some kind of dinner reservation thing that you hire these engineers, pay them tens of thousands of dollars for. Another instance where I would totally recommend learning WordPress for is if you go into the business of creating websites for other people. Personally, I have a friend who learned WordPress in a matter of 3 months, and he was kind of like a wizard WordPress person. He actually ended up turning it into his first business, where he would create these WordPress businesses and sell them for like $2,000 or $3,000. And honestly, that was 4 or 5 years ago, but it is still a need today. And there's a lot of people who would be willing to purchase a website and just pay someone to do it. All right, I think that's it. I hope this was a little bit valuable and hope you can narrow down your decision on which platform to use when you're building your own website. If you got value out of this video, I would really appreciate it if you just gave this video a thumbs up. It helps my videos be seen by more people, and I'm trying to do this YouTube grind, so help me out, and that's all I ask in return. So have a wonderful week, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.